Have you ever listened to synth pop music and asked yourself, damn, this is good, but do you know what could make it better? If it had more medieval music elements, and if it had more lyrics about grandmas pissing themselves. Well, that's you, then oh boy, do I have an artist for you. John Mouse, teacher, political activist, and of course musician. If you have been on the internet in the past 15 years, you probably have heard of John Mouse, as not only has he carved a relatively small but very dedicated cult following over the years, but he has also made numerous appearances in other people's works, such as his live performance in the Adult Swim show of terrorist, Ukrainian freedom fighter, and professional boxer Sam Hyde, and his many collaborations with Ariel Pink. So many that if we had a Snickers bar for every single song that these two have worked on together, we could feed the entire country of Venezuela, especially in his first two albums, and in Ariel Pink's Loverboy, though a lot of them are not credited, as neither Ariel nor Mouse care much about any official credit. And another thing John Mouse is known for is for his particular way of conducting interviews, where he speaks like an introverted version of Slavoj Žižek.
The Heart, it's one of those nice, gentle French movies where you have incest.
And just like Žižek, there is not a single interview where the interviewer is not severely uncomfortable. John Mouse's sound is a combination of good old synth pop with some lo-fi elements, with the lo-fi elements being the most present in his first two albums, with it being toned down by the third one, and not present at all in his latest album, Screen Memories. His vocals are mostly monotone, with the exception of his live performances, where John manages to sweat, cry, and break down while singing songs like this. Now compare this to the live version. But enough about his live performances. What about his actual music? John Mouse's first album title songs is his least coherent and also the most different from his discography. It's his most lo-fi project. The monotone singing that he'll be known for was barely present here. The theme of the songs are not very consistent. You can go from songs that talk about having sex with Ringo Starr to a song lamenting the loss of a relationship. Every song also has this weird outro that doesn't fit the song at all. It just plays all of a sudden. For example, Maniac, which goes from a very upbeat song to something you will hear from everywhere at the end of time. Which is not the worst thing in the world. The outro sounds fine, but it just doesn't fit the song at all. And this combined with lack of consistency in the lyrics and sound just makes this album sound like a collection of songs stitched together with no thought on how they would complement each other. Which maybe that's the whole point of the album, as it is simply title songs, but compared to John's following albums, which were all more interconnected in both sound and writing style, it feels pretty lackluster. And I'm not trying to say that the album is bad, because it isn't. Despite being John's least polished album, it also contains some of his best tracks, such as Maniac, Time to Die, and my personal favorite, The Peace That Earth Cannot Bring. This album also doesn't feel like a John Mouse album. It feels more like an Ariel Pink one, with its more playful lyrics and lo-fi elements, which makes sense as he had a hand in producing both this and Love Is Real, with the cover art of both being pink. Despite containing some of his best tracks, Songs is John's most inconsistent and least focused album. It's not bad, but it's not great either. 6.5 out of 10. Love Is Real succeeded at being a more consistent and coherent project on songs, with it having no bad tracks, but this came at the cost of also not having any outstanding tracks, or at least the level that songs had. But the album overall is better than Songs. It's more melancholic and less goofy than its predecessor, which is not to say that Songs didn't have tracks that tackle sad themes, but in Love Is Real it feels different, as most of its sad songs are about trivial topics like visiting an old town, growing older, or being alone walking down a city. Whereas in Songs they'll be about more serious situations, like in Just Wait Until Next Year, which details a story of a man so frustrated sexually that he cannot do anything besides thinking about his previous relationship. A frustration so heavy that the only reasonable way to end it is via suicide. I'm not trying to say that the song is not great, but I just enjoy the songs like Do Your Best more. A song that is less dramatic but also tackles a situation that is much more relatable to the listener, being alone while walking down a big city. You the viewer have probably never been so frustrated sexually that you wish to commit suicide, or you have probably felt alone while walking in a big city. But not all songs on Love Is Real are sad. This is a John Mouse album at the end of the day. There are more upbeat songs in the album such as Rights for Gays, a song so good that only a few years after its release will gay marriage be legalized in the United States. Or Too Much Money, a song about how worthless money really is, with a random jump scare in the halfway point in order to scare away the host. Love Is Real is John Mouse's first great album, with it being more consistent in both its sound and themes, but it is far away from being his best one. That will have to come a few years later. 8 out of 10. The first thing you will notice about this album is its title. Whereas the two previous projects received short and simple titles like Love Is Real or Songs, while this one is more of a statement. The title is a quote from French philosopher and one of John Mouse's teachers, Alain Badiou, and more specifically, his thesis, 15 Theses on Contemporary Art. John Mouse wrote this album in search for the perfect pop song, and oh boy, did he find it. Every song in this album is an absolute banger. You know how I said Love Is Real had no outstanding tracks? Well, this album has no good tracks, because they are all masterpieces. This album has everything from chill pop songs, to more experimental tracks, to more comedic songs. It's a culmination of all of John Mouse up to this point, and despite such variety, it does not feel like a random mix of songs, blended into a single album. The interchanging male and female vocals in Hey Moon, the synth euphoria of Believer, and the overall hilarity of Matter of Fact, which then goes on the question, is pussy a matter of fact? Which sounds goofy, but the song doesn't treat it as a joke. It treats it the same way the album would such topics as killing cops or loneliness. These are some of the highlights of the album, and as great as they are, they still do not compare to this album's best song, And the Rain. This song sounds like achieving true freedom. It may sound like an exaggerated claim, but just listen to this. This album is easily a 10 out of 10.
It's like one of my Japanese animes.
And that's all. Every single John Mouse album covered, without a single one missing. If you enjoyed this video and would like to continue to enjoy more cinematic masterpieces like the one you just witnessed, please subscribe and follow my Twitter for some great takes.
It seems today that all you see is violence in movies and sex on TV. But where are those good old-fashioned values on which we used to rely? Lucky there's a family guy. Lucky there's a man who positively can do all the things that make us laugh and cry. It's